Hello, people. I am here with my partner, James Proctor. And of course, I'm Lee Cole III. And we're here to do a pretty fast video on Gene Borrello again, because
Yeah.
Gene Borrello is always in the news. And how you doing today, James?
Hey, I'm doing really well. How are you today?
It's been very eventful the last couple of weeks, hasn't it?
Yeah, we've been pretty busy, haven't we?
Yeah. Oh, man. Just putting out stuff just about every day. We're doing
Yeah.
everything we can to build our brand, and it's been a blast.
Yes.
And we both have Yankee caps on today because James took the Atlanta cap and burnt it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I still got it somewhere, maybe.
Okay. You don't want, we're going to lose all people that like Atlanta. They're going to say, the hell with those guys. But anyway,
Yeah.
we're going to discuss Gene Borrello today because something really weird, James. This love that Judge Block has for Gene Borrello. Now, this guy, Judge Block, he's had so many informants in front of him before.
Yes.
Why do you think
Yes.
he has a love for Gene Borrello? And we're going to exactly show you. We're going to show you the proof that he has love for Gene Borrello.
Yeah, it's very hard to understand. He's a very unconventional judge. I mean, the guy's very, he's 88, almost 90 years old. So, I mean, he's beyond the retirement age, but he's a senior judge, and they're in for life. And so, uh, he's wrote books. He loves going to nightclubs, he's admitted to, doing you know, doing a few things in his life, but also he likes opera and just kind of
And,
an eccentric guy.
and he's written some books.
Yes.
And the man's on the bench. And being a judge like that, it's a lifetime job.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
but the weird thing is now Gene has done several things and some violent stuff. And he has compared Gene's life or relationship with his girlfriend to a Mozart opera.
Hmm. That's just pretty bizarre.
And I'm gonna and let's put this up here and just we'll start reading now. This is Jerry Capisci from Gangland. Great, $5. You get a month. You can go join his site, and for a month, per month, $5 per month. But it's like an
Hmm.
encyclopedia of thousands and thousands of gangsters and articles. Do you like his site, James?
Oh yeah, yeah. I really like it. What I like about it goes back. He's been doing this like 30 something years, and so it's got his whole library of articles. There's literally thousands of articles, so it's definitely a good source, and we do use his resource.
Okay, so Gangland, in a fitting conclusion, bizarre in which a hot-headed FBI snitch has been hit with 4 violations of supervised release in 2 years. A senior federal judge has underscored his often eccentric ways by giving turncoat Bonanno gangster turned podcaster Gene Borrello a free ride for the last 2 violations, Gangland has learned. Brooklyn judge Frederick Block seems to be quite happy to have gotten rid of the case of the hard to control volatile informant for good. To do so, Block simply went along with the government request to spare the ex Howard Beach Queens gangster a post prison supervised release term, and he gets out of prison in 2 months. See, originally it's down to August 4th as is now his release date.
Yes.
Okay. And just so we do know. To do so simply, okay, I'm sorry. The judge also encouraged Borrello to say nice things about him when he resumes his podcast. It's already been decided, and we've heard some things behind the scenes that Gene Borrello will be back in August on YouTube with unfiltered, no probation, a totally free man. This is going to be very interesting to see, ain't it, James?
Yeah, yeah, and that's what it is. So there'll be no probation left. I mean, as you read through the article, you're going to see some more examples of that. But it's like they want to give him a totally clean slate to start over. I mean, and it's what's weird. He's the one guy that's been able to convince law enforcement, prosecutors, and judges that being under supervised release is a bad thing, and that he will do better if he is without any sort of supervision, which is very odd based on his past, exploits, his past criminal behavior.
And he, Borrello 38 agreed to take a year and a day sentence to resolve a dozen allegations for the two violations. But the judge block gave him no additional time behind bars after noting that the defendant and the young lady had been living in Florida in a love-hate operatic relationship, in which one of you might kill one another. Can you imagine a judge saying that? And I'm going to hide this young lady's face, because after this video, I guarantee you she's going to write me an email and call me names. But she's a beautiful woman, but we're hiding her face. And this is the woman that Gene has all the issues with. And they're going to be back together soon. He's going to be on YouTube soon. What do you think about him comparing it to an operatic? He even uses the word, he compares it to a Mozart opera.
Yeah. So what he's trying to say is that it's almost kind of akin to a Shakespearean tragedy, and so what's bad is that he's acknowledging that this thing could end pretty bad, where one of them or both get killed, and so
we've already had stalking charges. We've already seen videos of fights in motels, weapons taken out, threats of stabbing people. We've seen so many things between the two of them, and yet the judge is comparing it to Mozart. So I guess we'll just call it a Mozart opera and see what the conclusion here is. Maybe this will end up happily after ever. What do you think, James?
Well, I mean, the only thing we can base on is past history, and so it doesn't look good. I mean, he's been given several chances before; it just hadn't worked out. I'm not sure why it will be any different this time, but he doesn't have supervised release, so I guess the courts feel that restraint is something he didn't need, and that was the reason he was committing crimes, because he was being watched. It's just strange.
Okay, and it almost makes you laugh. It's like I've been on probation. Let me tell you something. One thing that is true: when you're on probation, you are always worried about getting arrested because it's a violation. I've been violated on probation a couple times, and it could be for the simplest thing. And when you're on probation, and if a cop pulls you over, you're owned by the government, and that police officer has the right to tell you to get out of your car. They can search your car. They don't need no warrants or anything.
I see. Okay.
And that's the difference between being on probation and not being on probation. When the police can do whatever you want. But one of his charges and he admitted to it, and we'll get into that. But first, let me finish reading that. If Mozart were alive today, you would be a candidate for one of his great operas, Bloch told Borrello, while he was questioning the ex-gangster last week about his decision to plead guilty to the violation charge that was related to stalking and domestic violence allegations that were dropped in a plea with the feds. But there were also 3 other charges that were sealed. But we're not going to talk about that because we're not here to talk about that.
Right.
So there's more than just a couple things here. There's several things going on with this this whole conviction right now.
Yeah, and what I don't it doesn't. What I'm not sure about is, it sounds like that there's not going to be any state issues. The domestic violence and the stalking are state of Florida issue, or state of Florida charges. It's not federal charges. Federal charges was actually the committing these crimes, which is the violation. So it's a little confusing, but but it sounds like the state's not doing anything either about that, or it's kind of built into what he's going through right now.
And that's kind of what's strange, because originally the prosecution is the one that really wanted to go at him.
Yeah,
They wanted him
exactly.
put away for 2 years.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, now they've backed off. They said, okay, let this guy out. He has a very good lawyer. Who knows what's going on behind the scenes? But the fact of the matter is, come August, he's back on here.
Mhm.
And he's going to be unfiltered. And he's pissed at some podcasters on here. I have no idea who, but I have, I'm not going to say who, but I'm sure we're going to find out in August. So it should be a bunch of fun. Okay, so the quick-witted jurist who plays who wrote plays and Broadway musicals when he was struggling Suffolk County defense attorney, including professionally speaking. He wrote that he celebrated the opening night in 1986 by getting drunk at the Limelight nightclub, whose owner Peter Gatien was acquitted of drug dealing at his 1998 trial before Judge Block. Weird.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and after prosecutor Matthew Gialotti told Block that Borrello had agreed to plead guilty on 4 violations, which was lodged last September, and 2 violations number 4, which was filed in January, Block noted he is probably more familiar with the case than any other he's handled in 28 years on the bench, and moved quickly to take 6 guilty pleas from Borrello. Okay, so he's had so many like big gangsters, made men who flipped and come before him, but for some reason he has taken this liking to Gene Borrello.
Well, and Gene Borrello's been before his bench probably more than a lot of these guys because, he's continued to get, violated. He's continued to have, go before him. So maybe that's part of it. But yeah, there is a strong liking that Block has for him.
Yes, he definitely does. Okay, let's go on here. Okay. When Block asked Borrello to explain the crime of fleeing, now listen to this, people. A lot of people didn't realize this. When Block was asked Borrello to explain the crime of fleeing to elude law enforcement officers in violation of Florida state penal law on January 18th, Borrello said he didn't know how to explain it, but he would plead guilty to it. Block quizzed him. What did you elude a law enforcement officer for? They're saying they tried to pull me over, Gene said. I guess the cops were saying they tried to pull me over and I took off on them. So you had to be pulled over for some reason and you took off, asked the judge, Gene Borrello. I was never pulled over, Your Honor, but yes. Okay. Judge Block, we got to decide whether you are culpable or not because I don't want to force you into any of this stuff. Yeah, I plead guilty, yes. Judge Block, I want to make sure that you're pleading guilty intentionally with the knowledge of the fact that you are really guilty. And if you really have a defense, you don't have to plead guilty. What do you want to do? Okay, now there we're going to show. I'm not going to show Gene's showing his 8% fat body. I was pulled over and I took off. Okay, so now in the beginning of the conversation, Gene's saying that he doesn't remember being pulled over. Now Gene's saying I was pulled over and I took off. If you or I were on probation, just regular Joes, and we were pulled over by cops and took off, we're going to be violated. And
Yeah.
we're going to prison.
Yeah, we're going to prison. There'll be no question on that.
Then Judge Block, the police wanted you to stop and you just did not stop. Gene Borrello, yes. Judge Block, you knew that you were supposed to stop and you decided not to do that. Yes, Your Honor. So
well, and then he also said, what were you pulled over for? And he said, my girlfriend.
Yes. Yep. Good catch. And the prosecutor stepped in to explain the last charge, the one that triggered Block to note the love-hate operatic relationship that Borrello had with his girlfriend. Borrello was instructed not to live in with this particular individual, yet he did. And that's when domestic violence occurred, breaking down doors, being filmed by his girlfriend several times, and it being sent out by the girlfriend. Okay. But after Block stated I would give Borrello his rights, if he wanted to say not guilty, defendant admitted he was told not to live with her and not to come into her premise. Judge Block, yes. Gene Borrello, yes, I was living with her. Judge, look, Judge Block, look, I know you were going back and forth with her. Gene, yes. Judge Block, I know that you have an operatic relationship, and if Mozart was alive today, you would be candidate for one of his great operas. But I have to know for this proceeding whether or not you did go to her house. Yes, Gene Borrello said. Judge Block, and you know you should not be there. Gene Borrello, yes. After establishing Borrello's guilt, Block noted that the 2 violations were not the worst I have seen in my career. he had that this well, this is what it's not the worst he's seen in his career. I mean, we're talking one was running from the law, and the other one was domestic violence with his girlfriend. What is the judge talking about here, Gene?
He's talking about, well, he's talking about just again, that's not so much the issue is that it was violations. So he committed crimes. So what he's just saying that he committed those crimes and saying that it weren't the worst. The violations weren't the worst.
But they do sound like pretty bad crimes.
Oh yeah, they are. But
I guess what are they trying? Are they trying to say that domestic battery is not a serious crime?
Well, they don't have jurisdiction itself on that crime. What they have jurisdiction on is the violation of the supervised release, which was that he committed a crime. It's kind of a technical discussion, but yeah, I mean it is a bad thing, and that has to be taken consideration when you put a sentence down for that violation. And so yeah, I agree with you. I guess it's not the worst. He didn't kill someone. Maybe he didn't get behind the wheel drunk, but you know, I don't know.
The key word is yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Before the judge imposed sentence, prosecutor Gialotti stressed that the government was not requesting additional supervision, noting that the idea is not to catch him or on some small technical violation, but to see if he can sink or swim on his own at this point. Okay, so he's already proven that he's been sinking, but now they want to give him an opportunity. And I'm all for that, okay, give him an opportunity. But we have to remember that he's going back to where the issue was. Nothing being resolved. He's going back into that same situation. I wish Gene the best. I hope that he does a good job, but you got to be very skeptical about a good job happening, don't you?
Yeah, and that's part of it. Is he going to go back to the same place that he was? Is he going to be back around people that he got in trouble with? What changes is he going to do that's going to prevent him from going down that same path? I mean, every time he's been given a chance before, he's went down the bad road. So can he be able to change his life? And that means being totally away from these people. And maybe he's got to really rethink this thing with this woman. Is that really what he wants to do? And doesn't seem like they can get along.
Yeah, and sometimes we've all been in love-hate relationships.
Of course.
But we all know they usually don't end up love-hate. At the end, they usually end up pure hate for each other. And it's unfortunate, but that's usually what happens. And then before the judge imposed sentence, I'm sorry, I read it. I have to confess, I will miss Gene Borrello, the judge cracked before noting he was speaking fictitiously and stated, I agree with the government. I just hope that I'm not going to see him again, actually. The podcast said Block. There's not going to be any constraints. This is important, people. There's not going to be any constraints on that at all. So I guess you can have a podcast and do whatever you want. That's like telling a kid you're putting a kid loose in a candy store, telling him he could do whatever he wants in that candy store.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly right.
That was the one thing probation, the government and defense counsels all agree on. The time for supervision is over. The prosecutor said, adding that if Borrello lives within all the state, local, and federal laws in the future, he'll have a chance to succeed. Yes, he will. That's the reality.
That is.
You are, once you get freed up. I remember I was on probation at one time, and I remember this was in Colorado, and I remember when I got freed, and I stayed freed. I have not done anything wrong since then. Once they free you, it's like you have to make the decision. Are you going to remain the criminal and do all these things? Or are you going to never go before the law again? But he's young yet. He's not even 40. And he's, so hopefully, a guy like Gene needs help thinking wise, he needs to sit down with some therapists. And I would think that he needs to do that on the regular basis. What do you think, James?
Yeah, I also think, yeah, I agree with that. I think he really needs a good role model in his life, a strong male role model that'll be able to try to help him stay on the right path. Maybe someone that's been in his situation before, but's been able to mature and get past it. That's what I believe he needs. Because he needs someone that will be able to stand up to Gene's personality, someone strong to be able to tell him, hey, this isn't the way to go. He needs that accountability partner, in my opinion. But yeah, of course, counseling. He needs, just to figure out a way how he can live his life without committing crimes.
And if he's going back to Tampa, you know what? There's a lot of in Tampa.
Yeah, of
There's a
course.
lot of people, informants in Tampa, and none of them are going to have restraints on them anymore. When he was on probation, he wasn't allowed, even though he did, to be around guys that have felonies.
Right.
Uh,
That's
now,
part of it.
now he could be around those guys, and hopefully some of those guys have straightened out their life, and he'll find the right guys to be around. That's up for Gene to decide at this point, I guess. Huh?
Yeah. 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 It's up to him at this point.
If Borrello were to resume his podcast, Block cautioned him against crossing the line and talking about things which would get you in real trouble, and followed up by asking, "Do you think you can do that?" Yeah, Gene Borrello. Okay, we'll see. You have a look to be a little careful with that, said Block, noting that he is probably more familiar with Burlow's case than any other he's handled in 28 years on the bench. You can say good things about Judge Block, he cracked. You could say good things about your lawyer. You could say good things about the government lawyer. So basically, he's telling Gene to do his show and speak highly of the prosecution and to
Hmm.
speak highly of Judge Block. The actual judge is saying this to him. This
Yes,
is a very weird thing, ain't it?
it is.
Borrello just didn't express any opinion about the opposing lawyer in the case, but he did. He didn't wait until he resumes his podcast later this year to state his opinion about the judge. He told Block he was a good judge right before the 88-year-old jurist meted out his sentence, and he said, "There is nothing else. You're not going to have any further supervision. Your life is your own." Okay. So that's very interesting stuff, if you ask me, James.
Yeah, it is very interesting. I mean, it's just seems like a guarantee that Borello's going to have a podcast again when he comes out.
Oh,
And
yeah. I hear. I already. And let's remember, Gene Borrello was one of the original guys on here with John ALITE, and they had a very successful show that they would
mhm,
probably still have if Gene didn't mess up the first time. And the first time, he threatened to hurt his ex girlfriend's family, and he went to the house. I mean, so uh, there is that violence there. So I guess nobody's going to know until. Hey, listen, we only wish Gene the best. We don't want to see any. When you're given an opportunity like this, he's
mhm.
being given something that the people that he testified against are not being given. He's been given the opportunity to get his stuff together.
Yes, and that's saying that that's the only thing that really bothers me is that how some of these people, I understand second chances, we've talked about that, but someone getting third and fourth chances, I just know that for me, if I committed any of those crimes, I'd be locked up. If it was probably 99% of the people out there, they would be they would be locked up. But he's there's just certain people in life that gets breaks. Chris Pozziello's another one. He can do no wrong. He will always get another chance because of charisma. And so Gene,
But yet you have Ronnie G. Alonzo sitting in
mhm,
prison. Uh, Gene was one of the people that gave evidence on him,
yeah,
and he doesn't get a
exactly.
chance until he gets home and does his sentence.
Right, exactly. And so that's the only thing that's really bothers me. And then the other thing is, I still want to understand why he was down in Buckner for his time. Why did the federal marshals, take him out of MDC to put him down in Buckner for a few months, and then he goes back to MDC for the trial. So that's either a medical prison. It's a lower level. So I don't understand. It raises questions about those charges. How why are they just mysteriously sealed still, and why they're you know he's not going to face any problems with it.
And this gentleman right here is the gentleman that has to do his full sentence, Ronnie G. And Ronnie decided not to testify against anybody, and he took his sentence.
Mm-hmm.
But we just had to put that stuff out there, James.
Yes.
What do you think? I don't even want to predict what's going to happen here. It's almost.
Well, I hope he will get his life in order. That's what I hope. I mean, Lee, the only thing we can do is based on what we've seen previously. It's not a good track record. I mean, I just, but people can make changes. They
People
can.
do it all. Yeah, they do it all. To be fair, some of the people that we thought were the worst people on the face of the earth have changed their lives.
Yes.
So it's like you said, maybe he'll get lucky and get a mentor down there, and it's not someone that has a podcast that attacks people and brutalizes them.
Right. Exactly.
And what's his show going to be? Is he going to, I'm pretty sure him and John ALITE's going to be back because they got everything in place now. They have Felix. I could see, and this is just my prediction, I believe that he's going to come back with John ALITE and Felix. That's what I believe. And because that combo was very successful, and it would probably still be together if Gene didn't go off the tracks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see on that,
Okay, people, underneath us, please subscribe. I've been running that. Hit the like and the reminder bell. And underneath this video, you'll see if you want to donate and help us support our channel, you're more than welcome. If not, totally understand. But besides that, I hope people enjoyed this. James, did you enjoy doing this today?
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. It was a fun article, so I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a fun article. Let's just hope it ends fun. And God forbid if something happens in their relationships, they both go their own way, or maybe they'll live happily after
Ever after, yeah.
Together.
Yeah.
And have a big family and live that American dream.
Yeah.
Take care, my man.
More weirder things have happened.
Yeah, sure has, especially in this world. Everybody, thank you very much.